Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that my in-laws are stupid? My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest, Emily, turned 6 last Saturday. We recently had to deal with an issue in Emily's school. Last year, a new student joined her class and started bullying her. He would make fun of her, call her names, and steal her stuff to hide it around the school. On 2 occasions, the bullying got physical. It took us a while to sort everything out because the boy's parents were a nightmare and nothing the school did worked. Finally, they threatened to expel him if he didn't leave our daughter alone, and his family got him to stop. He hasn't bothered Emily in months, and she's doing much better. Because of how much of an ordeal this ended up being, many of our friends and family members know what happened. Most were as frustrated as we were, but my wife's stepmother, Patty, thought that the whole thing was cute. Even after we told her everything the boy did, she still insisted that he probably just liked Emily and didn't know how to show it. I hate people like Patty. Stop excusing assholes. For whatever reason, she's fixated on this. Every time the subject comes up, Patty says she still thinks that we're being dramatic and the boy deserves another chance. My father-in-law fluctuates between being angry at the school and agreeing that the boy was probably harmless. They never spoke about this near the kids, and my wife and I don't give a shit what they think anyway, so we never worried much about this. We're throwing Emily a birthday party this Saturday. Because my father-in-law will be busy, we all had dinner together at a place that Emily likes the day before her birthday. Near the end of the dinner, she started talking about her party, how excited she was, and which of her friends were coming. My father-in-law asked Emily if the bully was invited, and before anyone replied, he obviously isn't, Patty added that it would be mean if she didn't invite him, because he liked her and would be very sad. Emily looked at me and my wife. I told her, "Don't worry, honey. Grandpa and Patty are both very stupid. Don't listen to them." They looked shocked, but didn't try to argue. We had an awkward goodbye and went our separate ways. My father-in-law called us on Monday. He apologized for what he and Patty said, but told us he expected me to apologize as well. He said that I crossed a line by insulting him and his wife in front of his grandchildren. My wife and I have been on the same page throughout all of this. But yesterday, she told me she was starting to wonder whether it would have been better to deal with this privately, especially since we don't like insulting people in front of the kids. Am I the asshole? Edit. I've brought this up in the comments, but I want to offer more context on what the bully did. It was mostly verbal. He created a few nicknames that kind of, not really, sounded like Emily's real name and our last name. She once got brown paint on her clothes during art class, and he started calling her Pig. He laughed whenever she spoke in class. The teacher would always shut him down, but Emily is already a shy kid, and that didn't help. They have weekly toy days at school, and Emily stopped bringing her toys because the boy kept stealing them or threatening to break them. He would also take her stuff, like backpack, school materials, and personal items, and hide them. We managed to get all those things back, and the closest he got to damaging something she owned was a small rip in one of her stuffed animals that my wife was able to fix. And as I mentioned, the bullying got physical twice. On the first occasion, he pushed her off of a swing set. She scraped her knees, but wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her hair during lunch. A teacher witnessed and said he grabbed her head violently to do so. That got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. I don't think there's much I can say about this boy, except he has very obvious behavioral issues that his parents refuse to manage properly. In the comments, not the asshole. You have told Patty to knock it off, and then she went and tried to ruin your kid's birthday party by asking to invite that nightmare of a child to attend. She needs to get over her fixation before she pushes your family away from your dad and her. OP says, I'm really glad we didn't do this dinner on her actual birthday. Emily was upset, but she was doing better the next day. Not the asshole. I wouldn't apologize. They were out of line. You have to take bullying seriously. Kids are harming themselves just from being bullied, and they really need to stop with the "he likes her and meant no harm." Nothing is cute about being bullied and harassed. OP says, Patty's whole attitude about this has been infuriating. We've barely spoken about this boy in months, but she feels the need to bring him up every single time. Someone else says, there was probably no other way to make your mother-in-law shut up, so not the asshole. What I find disturbing is that your mother-in-law prioritizes a bully over her own grandchild. Since when is bullying a sign of affection? If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, chances are it's a duck. Seen in a wider context, your mother-in-law enables and makes excuses for the kind of toxic behavior that men display towards women on a daily basis. Instead of protecting her grandchild, she exposes her to a bully. That's seriously insane. OP replies, back when we were having to deal with the boy's parents, one of the excuses they used, referring to the name-calling, was that all boys behaved like that around girls. I think about that a lot. Both because I know that it's not true, as neither of my sons are like that, nor did I act like that when I was a child, and because of how disheartening it is that people could enable that. A downvoted commenter says, you're the asshole. You just called your father-in-law a name in front of your daughter. They are from a different generation. Yes, they were wrong, but so are you. They aren't just your in-laws, those are your wife's parents and your daughter's grandparents. You owe your wife, your daughter, and them an apology. OP replies, first, Patty is not my wife's mother or my children's grandmother. That's my mother-in-law who is still alive and kicking. Secondly, my father-in-law is in his 60s, so he's not that old. I don't really consider that a good reason to be soft. You can absolutely make the argument that I should apologize, but not for that reason. Someone else says, Patty downplaying your daughter's trauma in front of her would be it for me. I wouldn't let anyone around one of my kids that tried to downplay or minimize the hurt they had suffered by their bully, and I would tell them that. I would definitely take a time out from seeing Patty for a while, because I'm sure her comment confused your daughter. OP says, Emily cried on the way home. We had to tell her that she wasn't being mean to the boy. When asked what steps did the school take to deal with the bullying situation, OP says, the school actually handled everything better than we expected, but we could tell they were having trouble with it because the boy was very difficult to deal with. Transferring him to a different class didn't work, sending notes to his home didn't work, setting up meetings between us and his parents did not work. Not even suspending him worked. We could always tell the school was trying, but nothing they did stopped him or convinced his parents to do something until they threatened to expel him. When asked, does Patty have any kids? OP says, she doesn't have kids. My wife and her sister don't consider her a second mum either. I'm sure it goes without saying, but Patty doesn't need to have experienced having kids to have empathy for someone in this situation. Patty is an asshole. Patty needs to be talked to directly, like the adult that she is, and be told, hey, you cut that shit out, and you pull father-in-law in line as well. I'm going to have a talk with him, but you stop bringing this shit up. You stop mentioning the boy. You stop pressuring Emily with stupid, dangerous advice, or you guys are getting cut out of our lives. This is a hard boundary. You cross it again, that's it. You're gone. You're not getting to see anyone ever again. The shit that you're doing, Patty, is genuinely harmful, and it needs to stop now. That's what I'd say. If I was in the situation, I would think that Patty deserves to have the hammer of my judgment come down on her hard. Because this pisses me off. This is how you traumatize a child and make them question their own reality. Oh yeah, someone else continues to physically assault me, make me feel like shit, verbally abuse me. They actually just love you. They're actually just in love with you, and this is a normal thing. And we should actually reward that behavior. Yeah, Patty, you are delusional. You are a dangerous, delusional woman. And obviously, say the exact same shit to father-in-law as well, because it's obviously not getting through to him. He obviously agrees with her. He's no better. And now, on to the update. I'm very grateful for the advice and support you gave me on my first post. To get it out of the way, Emily's birthday party went off without a hitch, and she had a great time with her friends. It's always bittersweet watching our little girl grow up so fast, but me and my wife enjoyed ourselves as well. We talked more about what happened over the last few days. My wife made it very clear that she didn't care that I called her father and Patty stupid, and didn't think that I should apologize, but was concerned about our kids thinking that I was a hypocrite. We always aim to teach each other to be kind and avoid insulting others, and it doesn't feel fair to hold them to standards that we don't hold ourselves to. So Friday night, we sat the kids down and discussed what I had said. We explained that I was upset at what my in-laws had done and was trying to protect Emily, but that what I said was still not nice and that they shouldn't repeat it. I apologized for the language I used. Besides that, my wife and I also talked about how we would deal with her father and Patty. I told her that I wanted them to apologize to Emily and I wouldn't say a word to them until they did. She agreed with me. After the party, she texted her father the following. This is a translation. The party went well. About what happened at Emily's birthday dinner, OP will not apologize. Patty has no right to tell our daughter how she should feel about the boy who made her life hell for months, and neither do you. I'll call you tomorrow, and you will apologize to your granddaughter. If your wife wants to continue being a part of the children's lives, she will too. And if she mentions that boy again, I'll have to seriously rethink the role that we're letting her have here. This isn't up for discussion. She showed me the text before sending it, but I agreed with pretty much everything. They had a short fight about it, but he agreed in the end. I offered to apologize to keep the peace, and my wife told me not to. Both my father-in-law and Patty finally apologized to Emily on Sunday. We are not confident about Patty, but my father-in-law seemed sincere. Either way, we've decided to loosen our ties with my wife's stepmother for a while. We're still working everything out, but we'll see her less until at least my eldest son's birthday in October. I have no doubts that my father-in-law loves my children, but he's a very strange guy. He was overprotective of his daughters their whole youths, but frequently tells us that we're dramatic when it comes to our kids. And I never had any strong feelings about Patty, but her treatment of Emily's situation has soured my image of her. God loves a hypocrite. Oh yes, it was okay when I was overprotective, but you're just dramatic. On a side note, the bully found out about the party. His mother found my wife on Instagram and messaged her to complain that he wasn't invited. My wife reminded her of the day the school threatened to kick her son out. No reply as of today. I didn't know what to expect when I posted here, but I was glad to see that even those who thought that I was in the wrong agreed that Emily and her well-being came first. At the end of the day, that's all I really care about. This will be my only update. Thanks everyone. In the comments, glad everything worked out. As for the bully not being invited to the party but finding out, F around and find out. Maybe if his parents didn't raise him to be mean to other kids, it wouldn't be an issue. OP says his parents enabled and found excuses for everything he did up until the consequences got too severe. The one time my daughter physically defended herself and the few times my sons yelled at him to defend her were upsetting to them. They disapproved of everything the school did to protect Emily, including moving their son to a different class. Another commenter says, I'm glad you taught your daughter that abusive peers don't like her. That kind of thinking is insane. I'm 60 and I hated hearing it when I was young. OP says, both me and my wife hate it too. It was especially infuriating when we were having to deal with the bully and his parents, and Patty started trying to convince us that the boy had a crush on Emily. Hearing that the kid who was tormenting my daughter on an almost daily basis was just a cute little boy who didn't know how to deal with being in love was maddening. When asked if there was any chances that Patty knows or is friends with the bully's parents, OP says, highly doubt it. We never gave Patty or my father-in-law any last names, and they are not involved with a children's school otherwise. Both of the boys' parents also have very common first names. Another commenter says, it's hard enough watching your child go through something like that, but when the other parents enable the behavior instead of taking responsibility, it just makes everything worse. I'm glad your kids stood up for Emily. Sounds like they did the right thing even when the adults didn't. And OP says, I guess it would be hard to watch someone call your sister a pig and not do something about it. My sons are both older than Emily and the bully, so I'm glad they didn't get physical, but I'm proud of them for defending her. Someone else asks, why the heck would that kid's parents care about your daughter having a birthday party? My God, they're deranged. And OP says, they didn't actually parent their child until the school threatened to expel him. Their reaction does not surprise me. My wife showed me the mother's text. She essentially said that it wasn't fair to exclude her son and gave some of the same excuses for his behavior that she had given during our meetings at the school. The goal of a child and his mother whining to someone's parents that he's not invited to the party of someone he bullied. I've dealt with shit parents of shit children, especially as a scout leader, and I'm amazingly happy when they leave because we won't put up with their bullshit. My son was bullied by his 4 friends for his first year at a new school. They were all kind when one-on-one with him, but awful in a group. By the end of the year, we were both very tired of them. I arranged, with my son's permission, for him to be in a different class the next year and phoned and spoke to the parents and uninvited the children from his birthday party. The parents seemed to be understanding. The next year, he made friends that he still has 15 years later and was never bullied again in his new class. And there is an example of stellar parenting, much the same as OP was a stellar parent in their story today. It's unfortunate that shit parents of shit kids will enable and allow abuse to continue, but that's just how some people are, and you've got to have a backbone against abusive dickheads like that. It's sad that the school wouldn't really do much about it, and you had to push it so far to the point that they threatened expulsion. You'd really think that they would just get on top of the problem before it gets to that point, but it's insane to me that they don't. Like, why do they allow this to continue? I don't know. I don't have the answers to it. All I remember is back when I was in school, if I retaliated to abuse, I was punished and the abuser was not. So I feel very deeply for OP and OP's child. I hope that this is the end of it, and I wish them nothing but the best going forward. Thank you for your story. Our next post is by user It's Leah XX, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for not inviting my sister's boyfriend to my wedding because of his racist tattoos, even though he's changed? I, 27 male, white, am getting married this summer to my fiancé, 29 female, black. We are super excited, and honestly, planning a wedding as an interracial couple has had its ups and downs. Some family members weren't thrilled at first, but over time, most have come around. Here's the problem. My sister, 25 female, has been dating her boyfriend, who we will call P, 30 male, for about a year. P has a complicated past. He spent time in prison when he was younger, and during that time, he got heavily tattooed, including very visible racist tattoos. I'm talking swastikas, white power symbols, etc. Now, to be fair, P has openly said he regrets his past. He's tried to distance himself from that chapter of his life, and my sister swears he's completely reformed. But here's the thing. He still has all the tattoos. They're on his neck, hands, arms. They are unavoidable. My fiancée has made it clear that she would feel extremely uncomfortable having P at the wedding, and honestly, so would I. My fiancé's family, many of whom I love dearly, would be absolutely horrified to see someone covered in those symbols at what's supposed to be a joyful, welcoming celebration. I pulled my sister aside and explained gently that while I appreciate that P has changed, his appearance still carries a lot of pain and meaning, and I don't feel comfortable having him there. I invited her, but asked that P sits this one out. She flipped out, saying I was being unforgiving, that if we believe people can change, I shouldn't punish him forever, and that by excluding him, I'm basically just as prejudiced. She told me that if P isn't invited, she's not coming either. Now my parents are involved, saying I'm blowing this out of proportion and risking a family blow-up over something that doesn't mean anything anymore. My fiancée says she understands that it's complicated, but she's quietly grateful I took this stance. So am I the asshole for refusing to invite someone with racist tattoos, even though he supposedly left that ideology behind? In the comments, Madam Unicorn of Doom says, if he has changed, has he considered tattoo removal, cover-ups, anything? OP says, he's considered it, but he has quite a lot of tattoos, and they are not in the financial position to cover them or remove them at the moment. Edit to add, now that you mentioned this though, I might discuss having the makeup artist cover his tattoos up with makeup for the day. Powerful Response says, there are organizations that will assist in cover-ups of reformed racists. there's also cover-up makeup that can be done. If he can't see the pain those tattoos and symbols cause, he hasn't actually changed. Not the asshole. OP says, yes, I actually just thought of using makeup to cover them up. It might actually be a nice idea so that he could attend. As for those organizations, would you be so kind to tell me where I can look them up? I'd like to see if there's some local ones that could help. And yeah, they provided resources, but that's kind of neither here nor there. For me, it's important that OP was led to water and given options in this instance. Yes, there are ways to work around this instance, but from my point of view, it's insane that OP has to be the one to facilitate this. The sister and sister's boyfriend are the ones causing an insane, incredibly damaging problem, and they themselves are not looking for alternatives to the pain that they can and will cause if they come to the wedding? Am I hearing this right? Why are you, OP, the one that has to bear this burden for your own wedding? I don't understand why people can't just have their own agency. I think it's incredibly rich that she says, you're the one being unforgiving, and if you believe people can change, you shouldn't punish him forever, and by excluding him, you're basically just as prejudiced. So she admits, he is prejudiced, and, just as prejudiced, that tells me she thinks he is currently prejudiced, and he will cause a problem at the wedding. I think it's best if they just not come at all. I think his presence, regardless of it being covered up or not, is going to be a problem. People are going to understand why he is all weird looking with the cover-ups. Also, he's 30 years old, and he spent time in prison when he was younger, yet it's been how long since he was in jail, and he didn't just get cover-ups over the years? If he really wanted to, he would do it. This is such a pathetic and sad excuse, being like, oh, well, we're not in a financial position to do that. It's not that expensive, and you should do it. You should feel shame. You should feel shame dating someone with racist tattoos like that, and he should feel shame having them on his body and not doing anything to cover them up over all that time. He's had time. If I was in OP's shoes, I wouldn't be looking for alternatives. I wouldn't be allowing them at my wedding. That is too much of a risk to take. This is going to cause an absolute blow-up on a day that is supposed to be special for you. Absolutely not. If it were me, I wouldn't have them there. I don't blame you if you do, but hey, that's your choice. And now, on to the update. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for all the thoughtful comments and advice on my original post. I really appreciated hearing so many perspectives, and it helped me work through this situation more calmly and fairly. After sitting with it for a bit, I decided to have an open, honest conversation with my sister and her boyfriend, P. I explained to them again why his tattoos were such a big concern, especially given the context of me marrying my black fiancé with many black family members and friends attending. I emphasized that it wasn't about punishing P or refusing to acknowledge that people can change, but rather about making sure the day felt safe, welcoming, and joyful for everyone present. To my surprise, P was incredibly understanding. He acknowledged that even though he's no longer the person who got those tattoos, they still carry real meaning and can cause pain just by being seen. He said he didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable on such an important day, and he offered to do whatever he could to help. After some discussion, we all agreed on a compromise. On the wedding day, our makeup artist will help cover up as many of his visible tattoos as possible. On top of that, P will wear long sleeves and high collars to help keep things discreet. My sister was clearly relieved that we found a solution that included him without ignoring the valid concerns. My fiancée is grateful too. She told me she feels respected and supported by the way that this was handled, which honestly means the world to me. I'm so glad that we were able to come to an agreement that balances grace, growth, and sensitivity without cutting people out or creating bigger rifts. Thank you again, Reddit, for helping me navigate this. Sometimes just reading different viewpoints really helps clarify what matters most. And a special thank you to everyone who suggested the makeup as a solution and giving us reach out to local tattoo places or charities that might be able to help P get his tattoos removed or covered up with his current financial position. In the comments, Scarlett Mae West says, "I'm so glad a calm, honest conversation worked. Good luck with all the wedding planning." OP says, "I am very glad too. I wasn't very hopeful after my sister's initial reaction, but I'm glad that she and P were willing to work with us on that. Minute Employ says, honestly, I'd still be pissed at my sister. How stupid do you have to be to not realize the tattoos would be a problem? Well, they weren't a problem when she started to talk to this guy. So, even the most confident racist in the world would know that you can't go to a wedding where the bride is black and you're covered in Nazi tattoos. So either she wanted to make a statement, or she's the dumbest person alive. Look, I'm glad that OP solved this one calmly and professionally like they did, but I'm with these guys. I'd be pissed off at her too. Who the hell does she think she is dating someone like that? What kind of message does that send? Oh yeah, no, I'm not racist by association. He's not racist either. I'm just dating someone absolutely covered head to toe in the most abhorrent display of racism ever, but he's changed. He's not that guy anymore. I'm all for redemption. I'm all for people changing and doing that, but you have to show it through your actions, and you have to get that shit covered up one way or another. You can't just ignore the problem and be like, no, he's fine the way he looks right now, and he's going to a wedding where a good size of the audience there is going to be incredibly offended by his presentation. So yes, I agree. She either wanted to make a statement or she's the dumbest person alive. I believe that she's both. I would have some absolute fighting words for my sister if she were to ever do something like this in my life. And I would hope that other people also have the same and would try and get to where this is all coming from personally. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end the episode today. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.